Okay, good afternoon once again. It's my pleasure meeting you to continue with our topic on human resource management. We've done several aspects of that topic. It's quite broad. Today we are going straight because I told you during our last meeting that today we'll be looking at training and development. So that is what we'll be looking at today. By the time we are through with today's lesson, you should be able to explain what training is. When you say training, what is it? Then when you say development, what is it? So you should be able to explain or define what training is and what development is. Then we should be able to also talk about the factors to consider in setting up training program. If you are the human resource manager, you want to set up training program, what are the things you need to consider before you set up a training program? We also look at the steps involved in training program. Then we look at training methods. We look at two main methods. Number one, we look at on-the-job training method. Then we look at off-the-job training method. Then we also look at, you see here, what is it? When you say on-the-job training method, what is it? When you say off-the-job, what is it? Then after that, we look at some main methods of training employees for specific job. So then you realize that okay, you are using a particular method or technique. What is it? Is it on the job or off the job? We look at that one. So under that one, we look at apprenticeship, which you are familiar with. When you say somebody is an apprentice, who is that person? We will also look at vestibule training program or vestibule training. We also look at supervisory training. When you say supervisory training, what is it? We look at induction training. We look at internship. Now, last semester, you see some university students came to you and they did their teaching practice. Some of them, when you meet them, they will tell you they are on internship. What is internship? When you say internship, what is it? Then we also look at mentoring. When they came, some of us who are already experienced on the field mentored them. So I was a mentor, and they were about 4 of them were my mentees. So we look at, when you say that one, what is it? Then you look at executive training. You see, I jumped that one and I came here because after knowing what executive training is, we'll go into it quite detail. What is it, the advantages and whatever, we look at that one too. So that is what we'll be looking at. So what is training? What is training? It's very simple, straightforward. If you had been in school, I would have asked you this simple question and you should have been able to tell me what training is. Some of you are footballers. You say, oh, today we have training. We are going for training. What do you mean by saying you are going for training? What does that mean? So when you say training, what is it? It's very simple. You see, training is a learning process. So, number one, during training programs or during training, you learn. So it's a learning process. During that process, what happens? Now, if Ronaldo goes for training, why has he gone for training? Football is full of skills, is that not it? Yeah, so he wants to go and develop his skills. He wants to go and then he acquires new skills. So it's a learning process, and through that learning process, you acquire skills. Whatever work you are doing, you remember when we were looking at managerial skills? You remember? Yes. We have looked at managerial skills. So you know that a manager should have technical skills, a manager should have conceptual skills, and so on, and so leadership skills, all those things. As a teacher, I should have certain skills, and I've already told you that I should have what you call the pedagogical skills. Without that one, I will not be able to impart the knowledge that is even in me to you for you to understand. So everything we do under the sun, you need certain skills to be able to do that. So, and it is through training. When you are employed, they come to the workplace, they have certain skills. But number one, society is not static. Things change. Technology comes, and so on and so forth. So the skills you might have entered that workplace with may be outmoded at a certain point in time. So you may have to improve upon your skills. Or you may need new skills. And you can number one, improve upon your skills. Number two, you can develop new skills for your job for efficiency's sake through training. So when you are trained, then you can improve upon your performance. So it's a plan. So we say that training is a plan, number one, and you have done plan. So when you say something is planned, you understand, and systematic. It is not done haphazardly. It is a planned and systematic effort to increase employees' job-related skills. So this is not football-related skills. It is job-related skills. So there is that planned and systematic effort to increase the employees' job-related skills. For what reason? So that he can also increase his performance. So that there will be efficiency. When you are trained, something that probably you were using 1 hour, you were using 1 hour to produce 10,000 units of a product. Now you can use the same hour to produce about 15,000 units or even more. That all these things will come through training. So that is what training is all about. Then we also say that it is a learning process which involves acquiring skills. So during training programs, you acquire skills. Were you a typist? Yes, you may have the skills, but you may have to improve the skills so that instead of typing 40 words per minute, you can now type 60 words per minute. So during training program, you acquire skills, either new ones or you improve upon the existing one. Then you also acquire concepts, new ideas, concepts. You acquire rules, safety rules. You are taught certain rules so that you may probably not involve yourself in industrial accident. And you remember when we were looking at workplace hazard. Yes, there are certain rules. We said that there are some people, they get sick, they die because they violate simple rules. So you acquire rules and attitude. There are some people, they have very bad work attitude. Through training, you can have positive attitude towards your work, and so that you can increase your performance. So that is all that training is about. When you say training, that is what it is. Then what is development? Now remember, training enables you to acquire skills and what have you to be able to increase your performance. And I've given you a typical example. If a typist was typing 40 words per minute, and now the same minute the typist is now typing 60 words, then the person has increased upon his or her performance. So training is quite related to the worker to increase upon his performance. But when you come to development, that one too is a learning process. So it's also a learning process. But through that learning process, you acquire the skills. That skills that you have acquired, it is meant to enhance. So I said it aims at enhancing your capabilities for greater. So if you look at it, I have underlined this phrase, greater responsibility. So when you say development, then the skills, the knowledge, the attitude that you acquire, they are all aimed at enhancing your job so that you can have a greater responsibility. So when you are developed, then you can even move from a worker to a first line manager, or you can move from a first line manager to a middle manager, or you can move from a middle manager to top level manager. So that is what development is all about. Now let's look at factors to consider in setting up training program. Very simple, straightforward factor. The first one, now you have to look at the cost involved. You have identified that there is the need for training. Okay, so how much are you going to spend in training the employee or employees? Now you need to do your cost benefit analysis. Find out the amount of money you are going to spend and the benefit you are going to have at the end of the training. Is it going to be beneficial? How much are you going to spend? You have to look at the cost involved. Then you also need to look at the willingness of the trainees to be trained. If you want to train somebody and the person is not willing to be trained, then your effort will be fruitless. So you have to also look at the willingness of the trainees. Then you also look at the method that you are going to use. You use appropriate method, whether you are going to use on the job training or whether that program should be on the job or off the job. If it is on the job, what technique are you going to use? You need to look at that one. An appropriate training method. An appropriate training method. Now the way I will teach somebody in class 1, that is not the same way I will teach you. The way I will teach a particular topic, that's not the same way I will teach another topic. The way university, that's why we call them lecturers. You go there, they lecture. But when you come to secondary school, we don't lecture, we teach. You see. So there are several methods of teaching people. So you look at the kind of people you want to train. What is their level? What method will be appropriate for them? Then, so you need to look at the appropriate method. Then the next one, you look at the availability of the trainer or trainers. Do you have the resource persons, those who are going to train the employees? Are they there? So you have to also look at that one. Then you also need to finally look at the number of trainees involved. The number will enable you to know the cost involved and even the method you are supposed to use. So it is very important for you to also look at the number. So these are the factors you have to consider in setting up training program, especially if you want that training program to be effective. Remember, we have learned that when we are talking about the functions of a human resource manager, it is not the human resource manager himself who does or conducts the training. He only organizes the training program. So let's look that one. Now let's look at the steps in training program. The steps. What are the steps? So when you say steps, then do that. We move from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and what have you. So what are the steps involved? Let's look at a question that appeared in 1997. So this is the question. It said, what steps can a manager take to train employees to acquire work skills? So you see, we have already learned that through training you acquire skills. So there is no tool. So this question is very simple and straightforward. So what are the steps? If you are a manager, what are the steps you should take in order to enable the workers to acquire that work skill? That was SSC. These days you people are doing WASI. It used to be SSC. That was 1987. Paper 2, question 5. So what are the steps? Number 1. The first one, very simple, straightforward. We have already done that when you were in school. You need to discover their training needs. And remember in school, I told you when you say training needs, we are not talking about the things you need for training. We are not looking at the things you need for training. But we are looking at the skills, we are looking at the concepts, we are looking at the rules, we are looking at whatever the worker or the employee lacks. And therefore, you want the person to acquire that skill. That is the person's training need. So the first thing you need to do is to discover the training needs. So when you discover, probably, for example, the person is sales agent who goes out to make presentation to customers. Probably you want the person to use PowerPoint in his or her presentation, but the person doesn't have that skill. So that becomes the person's training needs. So before you organize any training, the first thing is, what are the training needs? Mr. A's training needs may be different from that of Mr. B. So what skills, what knowledge, what concept do you want the person to acquire at the end of the training program? So the first thing is to discover that one. When you have done that, then you set objective. That is the second point. You set objective. Why have you organized the training program? At the end of the period, what do you want to achieve? For example, I gave you a typical example in respect of a typist. So probably your objective might be that at the end of the training program, the typist should be able to, or will be able to type 60 words per minute. Currently, the person is typing 40 words per minute. So you organize the training program, and your aim, your objective is that by the end of the training program, whether it's 3 days, 1 week, 1 month training program, or whatever duration is going to take, whatever period is going to take, this person should be able to acquire. So you must have objective. And that is where you'll be able to measure your performance to know whether the training program was successful or it wasn't successful. Then the third point, after setting objective, then now you develop the training program. You know, when you attend weddings, they have program. You have done program policies and those, so you know what program is. So you want to train your workers. So where is the program? So, and what will go into your program? Number one, the content of the training. What do you want them to learn? That will be part of the program. What do you want them to learn? Number two, the method of training. What method are you going to use in training them? That one too should be part of the program. Number three, duration. How long is the training going to take? Is it a 1 week training program, 3 days, a 3-day training program, or what is it? So the duration should also be stated. Location. Where are they going to organize, or are you going to organize the training? Is it in the organization's classroom, or where, or outside the organization? Where? The location should also be stated, and then the trainers, the resource persons. So all these things should be part of the training program. So you have to develop training program. Remember, we said the first thing is that you need to discover the training needs. The second thing, you establish your objective. Then you have to develop training program. And we have talked about what goes into the program. Once you have the program, then you conduct the training. Conduct means you do. You said this is what you are going to do. You want to train them to acquire what? So you start it. So you conduct the training. Now remember, you have set objective. So you have to finally evaluate the training program in order to find out its effectiveness. Were you able to achieve your objective? You need to do evaluation. The evaluation will enable you to know whether you were able to achieve your objective that you set. So that typist you said should be able to type 60 words per minute. You now give the machine to the person for the person to type, and you tap the pen to see that whether the person had been able to do that, or any other skills you wanted any other person to acquire, as to whether they have been able to do that. If that happens, then you say the training program has been successful and that it is now effective, or it has been effective. So that is that. Now let's move to training methods. As I indicated here, we have two main methods. That is on the job, on the job, on the job, on or off the job. So the name tells you what is it on the job, on the job. You see, training, let us know that for training, you are going to acquire skills. That's a major thing. Now, that skills that you acquire, did you acquire the skills whilst you were doing, so learning by doing, whilst you were doing the job, or you left the work environment and probably you went to school somewhere to study? You were given study leave, so you left the organization, you left the work environment, and then you went elsewhere, either in a classroom in the organization or even outside the organization, GIMPA or wherever you can acquire such training. That is where we have on the job or off the job. So I said we have two main methods of training. That is on the job training, and I have put into bracket learning by doing on the job. So you acquire the skills by doing. So whilst you were working, whilst you were doing the thing, there would be a trained and experienced supervisor there who may be guiding, coaching you, and then through that you can acquire the skills. That is why we are looking at apprenticeship here. Because I'm looking at it because you all know it. If somebody is an apprentice, the person learns, the person acquires the skills of cutting. If the person is a seamstress, the skills of knitting, the skills, all the skills by observing the master or the madam, and then by doing it, the madam will give the work to the person at a certain point in time to do it. So you learn, you acquire the skills by doing it. Here, you don't go to any classroom to learn theories, but it becomes so practical. So when you say on the job, I said the worker is placed on a specific job and taught the skills. So what you are placed on a specific job, then you are taught the skills and knowledge necessary to perform it. That is on the job. So you are placed on the job, then you are taught the skills and knowledge that are necessary to perform that particular job. So I said the training continues until the supervisor is satisfied that the employee can perform the job without close supervision. It will continue. The person guides you, the person coaches you, the person will give you work to do. It will continue till the person now becomes satisfied that you can do the job without close supervision. So that is the on the job. When you say off the job, two things happen when you are looking at off the job. Number one, you see, if it is on the job, then you are at the work environment where you have the machines and whatever you are working with. So you are actually working, and there's somebody regarding you, somebody coaching you, and what have you. But when we say off the job, then you leave the work environment. Then number one, some organizations may have classroom where they train their workers. So then you go to that classroom. That is what they call vestibule training program. It may be a day release. So you come to the workplace in the morning, you work for some time, maybe after let's say some hours, maybe after 11 o'clock. Let me give you a typical example. You know, in school, every Wednesday, there is what we call PLC. Do you remember? So the teachers will go to the long room to learn certain skills, you see, to acquire certain skills of teaching as a modern teacher. You see, here we don't leave the organization, we don't leave the school, but we leave the classroom environment, then we go to the assembly hall for about 1.5 hours to learn. Is that not it? Yes. So you are familiar with that one. So that will be the vestibule training. And it is off the job. Why? Because I have left the classroom. I have left the classroom environment. Then we go. When we go there, even at times some of the teachers will behave like students, and then a teacher will be teaching those teachers. We create scenarios. Or a teacher may also be given study leave. Then you leave the school. Then you go to university for 4 years. Study leave will pay. Then whilst you are in school, the government will pay you, or your employer will be paying you. That one too is off the job. So you go and you learn the skills, the pedagogical skills that I was talking about, and other things. You learn the content. You acquire new knowledge, and so forth. Then you come back to work. So that is what the off the job is about. So off the job, I've talked about two things. Remember, either you are going to the organization's classroom to learn, or you leave the organization at all, and then you go to elsewhere in school, University of Cape Coast, Legon, Gimpa. Some people can even travel abroad. They can be given scholarship to travel abroad. So that one can happen. That is off the job. So I said it is conducted, off the job training is conducted outside. So outside the organization, number one, or in a company's classroom. When you go to the classroom, you have on the job situation. In other words, if they have a classroom, they have the same probably machines that simulate, machines that are like the one that you are using at the workplace, your work environment, the one you are using, they may have it there. Then it will be used to train you. So I said it is conducted outside the organization or in a company's classroom with on the job situation to work with. What are the forms it is? It can be through lectures. It can also be through discussions. It can also be through case study. You know what case study is because you know business management, one of the aspects is the case study. And you have been answering questions in respect of case study. So when I say case study, you understand what it means. So case study, or it can also be through demonstration. So you'll be shown how the thing is done. So that is off the job. Now, these are the two main. So now we should be able to define what on the job training is. And we should also be able to define what off the job training is. But we are now going to look at some specific methods of training employees for specific jobs. Here, we look at it from its broad perspective. But here, we are going to look at some specific methods. For example, we said on the job. If you come here, we said apprenticeship. The question is it on the job or off the job? And I've already told you. You know, apprenticeship is on the job. It's a typical example technique in respect of on the job training program. What is it? We all know what apprenticeship is. Some of you, your sisters, your brothers, your friends are learning some skills in how to sew, carpentry, masonry, and what have you. And they have masters who have acquired the skills and whatever, and they are imparting those skills to them. So when you say apprenticeship, what is it? You have trained, you are trained under the guidance of a highly skilled worker or supervisor. Apprenticeship, you are trained under the guidance, so the person guides you. And who is that person? That person who is guiding you is a highly skilled worker or supervisor. The trainee, that is the person being trained, learns by helping. So number one, by helping. So you are helping your master or the person gives you tasks, the person guides you, the person coaches you, and then you do it. So by helping and being assigned some tasks, so the person will give you a task to perform. When you say task, you know what task is. Assuming you were learning to be a seamstress, your master will guide you on how to cut the material. Your master will guide you on how to even measure the material and any other skill that is required. So remember, the master is highly trained person, and he wants to impart the skills that are in him to you, so that in future, when you have also acquired that skill, you become a master. Apprentice will they acquire those skills, some of them within on average 3 years. So if somebody is a carpenter, 3 years, the person should be able to acquire the skills to become a master. A tailor, the same thing, and so forth. So that is that. And we know jobs that are usually all meant for apprenticeship: carpentry, tailoring, masonry, and so on and so forth. The next one I've already told you about, that vestibule training. That is off the job. Vestibule training is off the job. Apprenticeship is on the job. Vestibule training is off the job. And I've already told you what it is then. So educational facilities that approximate. When you say it approximate, you remember I told you the machines that you are using at the workplace. When you go there, you will see those machines there. So educational, whatever is going to they are going to use to teach you, that will be the educational facility that approximates real working place condition and equipped with actual production machinery. So when you go there, when you go to the classroom, you see the machine that you have been using, and they will use it to train you to acquire more skills. So that is for the vestibule training. Then the next one, supervisory. The name tells you what it is. Supervisory. You know who a supervisor is. So supervisory training will certainly train somebody to become a supervisor. So you are trained so that you can also come and train others. You can train so that you are trained so that you can also come to impart whatever skills you have acquired to others. So it's very simple. So I said it aims, that is supervisory training, aims at training employees on how to supervise, control, and train others. So you'll be trained to have the skills on how to supervise others, how to control, and in management, when you say control, you understand what it means. You setting target, measuring performance, comparing the performance with the target that you have set, and then you take the necessary corrective measure where there is deviation. So you, after going through supervisory training, you acquire the skills to be able to supervise, you acquire the skills to be able to control, you acquire the skills to be able to train others. What will be the content of supervisory training? That means what goes into supervisory training. Number one, very simple. You'll be taught how to delegate, because you are now going to be a supervisor. You are now going to be a superior. And you may have a lot of work to do. So how do you delegate, assign part of your work to others and have the result? You'll be taught on how to delegate effectively. Then you also be taught leadership. You are not going to be a leader. So you learn about leadership. You know, we have learned about leadership. And we have learned about leadership style. Democratic leadership style, autocratic leadership style, laissez-faire leadership style. You learn about leadership, how to lead effectively. So now, because now you are going to be a leader. Then you also learn about how to enforce discipline. Without discipline, remember, you know that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. So you have your goals to achieve. Whatever the goals are here, the result will be there. So discipline is the bridge that will enable you to achieve your goal. So how do you enforce discipline? During supervisory training, you learn about that one, and so forth. So that is that. Then you have induction training. That is number 4, induction training. When you came to Form 1, you remember you had orientation. Orientation was meant for the new entrant. You were a new person on that environment. So there was some of you came to school, and the first day you came, you were crying because that was the first time you were leaving your parents. So there was the need for the school to organize orientation for you so that you'll be able to adjust within the environment that you have come to. So that you know that you are welcome within that environment. So induction training is the same thing. And it is therefore meant for new employees. So I said it is sold for new staff. So the moment you see induction training, one characteristic is that it is meant for new staff. To enable them adjust and have the right impression of the organization. So you have come to a new environment. Are you welcome? You remember we have done orientation. Yes, so that is what we are looking at here. And they will give you lessons that will enable you to have good impressions about the organization. That you yourself will be able to adjust quickly within the new environment that you find yourself. Very soon the school is going to organize orientation, and it is likely next week they will organize orientation for the Form 1 students. Some of them, when you look at them, see that they need orientation. So that is for that one. So as I said, it makes the new staff acquainted with the plans. So you become acquainted with the plans of the organization. You become acquainted with the policies of the organization. And for you, when you say plans, you know what plans are, the courses of action to be pursued in order to achieve the objective of the organization. We have also done what policies are. So you become acquainted with the policies of the organization. You become acquainted with the people, other people that you are going to meet. You become acquainted with the processes of the organization. All these things will be taught during the induction training. So that is induction training. The next one is mentoring. Very simple, straightforward. I told you here, mentoring. And I said every year I mentor at least 4 university students. Those who come on teaching practice, 4 of them are given to me. Why are they given to me? Because I am an experienced person. They have learned theories in schools and other things. They want to impart to you what they have learned. But there should be somebody, just as we learned here when we were looking at apprenticeship. We said, let's look at it again. We said, for apprenticeship, the one who is guiding you is a highly skilled worker. The same thing happens here under mentoring. So I said a more experienced employee known as the mentor. So the one who is experienced in mentoring is called the mentor. I hope you can see the mentor. This mentor guides and supports a less experienced employee who is called the mentee. I hope you can zoom the mentee, who is called the mentee. So we have the mentor-mentee relationship. And what is the mentee doing? That more experienced worker impart some skill. There are certain things you can never learn in book. Somebody is already on the field and the person needs to guide you. The person needs to support you. For example, when they come, the teaching practice students, when they come, we support them. At times they have to prepare lesson notes. You have to guide them on how to prepare the lesson notes. They have to get some teaching aids or teaching learning materials. They are going to teach, the person is going to teach a particular topic. Some of them may even say that for this topic, you cannot get any teaching learning material for that. But the experienced person knows that you can get teaching learning material. You guide the person how to prepare lesson, you guide the person how to, a whole lot of other things. So that they will be able to develop their skills and achieve their professional goals. So that is what mentoring is all about. Then the next one, which is similar to the mentoring, is internship. So when they come, some of them, they come and they tell you that instead of saying I'm on teaching practice, they say I'm doing internship. Now, the home economics students, vacation, most of them will go to, especially the food and nutrition students, they go to restaurants on internship. You know, they are learning the theories and some few practicals there. But then we have somebody who is already experienced out there. So they go there and they learn under that person. So when you say internship, it involves temporary position. So if you are on internship, that's not permanent. You come, you go. Every semester, these home economics students, they go to the hotels, the restaurants around on temporary positions where the individuals gain practical work experience. So let's concentrate here. Practical, you gain practical work experience. Now, let me give you a typical example. Some of these university students, there was somebody who came to first year university, and the person, at every vacation, this person will come to me. Then she will be with me throughout the semester. We will go to classroom together. She'll be observing the way I teach. At times, I give him some topics to teach. She'll be marking students' script, and they will be doing a whole lot of other things. Then the school reopens, the person goes back, the person comes again. That is intense. Why? The person is learning some theory, some books in school on how to teach, teaching methods and what have you. The person wants to gain practical work experience in a specific field. So the field here, the example I gave is teaching field. Somebody who is learning accounting in school during vacation can go and learn practical way of preparing accounts under an experienced accountant, a chartered accountant. So that is the internship. So I have written, I said, application of theoretical knowledge in real life situation. The theory that you have learned in school, what is this, what is that, and you'll be writing, you go and learn the practical way. So it's application of that theory that you have learned, the theory that you have in real life situation. So that is what that one is intention. Now, the last one that we will be looking at, but that one will be done in details. So because of that, I'm not going to teach it here now. That one will go to the next video. It's going to be a topic, and that will be management development. That should also be part of this one. So like I should have written 7, management development, but let me teach it because that one is broader than what we have here. So remember, there is another specific training method for specific job, and that is called management development. Management development. What is it? We'll look at it in our next video. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's lesson. We have looked at training. We look at the meaning of training. We look at the meaning of development. We look at training methods. We look at some specific method of training. We have even looked at the steps involved in training. As usual, you have to read your textbooks. If you don't do that, you'll be the one to suffer. Till we meet again another time to continue our lessons on management development. Bye-bye.